How you can write your novel the same way a movie director would direct a movie. What do I mean by that? How on earth can a director directing a movie help you with your novel writing? We're going to be answering that question and more, and we're starting right now. One of the biggest problems with new writers is that they have a habit of just sitting at their laptop, staring at their screen, wanting the novel to come to them. And they can sit there for hours and then they just give up. And the worst thing is they actually just give up being a writer altogether because no story came to them. The problem is when you sit down and look at a laptop screen, that's all you see in your mind. You see just a white blank screen in your mind. And there's no way you can write a novel like that. If you ask any successful writer, they will tell you that they see their novels in their mind as a movie, even if they're not actually writing. They could be out driving, walking, they could be just lying in bed falling asleep. And they see the movie playing out in their mind the same way it would look on a movie screen. Writers actually see close-ups. They see wide-angled shots. Whenever you watch a movie and they go to a new location, there's usually a wide-angled shot of the city. And then you move in closer to the characters walking down the sidewalk, and then you cut to a close-up of them talking. A writer will actually see this themselves. They can actually see their novel playing out in their mind like a movie. They can actually see the wide-angled shot of the city with the buildings, with the clouds in the sky and the water, and they actually will write that in. And then they will move in closer to a medium shot describing people walking down a sidewalk. And then in the next paragraph, they'll talk about the people, the close-ups, what they look like, and how they're talking to each other. And if one character is holding a newspaper, it's almost like the writer sees a close-up of the newspaper in their hand. And the writer can actually describe the newspaper in detail because they're seeing it like a movie playing out in their mind. They can actually see an action scene playing out in their mind to a point where they just simply write down what's playing. It's like an author is in a movie theater watching a movie, and what they see, they simply write down. What a lot of professional writers don't do is they don't sit there staring at a white screen on their computer, waiting and wanting a story to come to them. They will have an idea, that spark for an idea come to them, and it can come at any time. And they will see the movie playing out in their mind, as with famous actors, well-known famous actors, talking to each other in famous locations. And the writer simply remembers what they see. So when they go back to sit down and write, it's like they're watching a movie after they press rewind. They just play the movie out again, and they simply write down what they already saw. Even if they're going for a walk, they can see this story playing out in their mind like a movie with the medium, the close-ups, and the wide angles, the panning, and the zooms in. So when they go back to their computer, they simply write down what they saw in their mind. And this is what a director does in the pre-production phase of a movie. A great director will look at the script, and as they're reading it, they can see it happening in their mind. It's almost like a reversal, where a director looks at the script and they can see it playing in their mind, and that is what they direct. Whereas a writer will come up with the story first. They can see it in their mind, just like a movie, and then they will write down what they see. Imagine if a writer came up with an idea, they saw it like a movie, wrote it down, had it published, and then somebody turns it into a screenplay in which the director reads it and they see it in their mind, just the same way the director saw it playing in their mind. It's almost like one thought goes from the writer all the way to the director. There have been some writers who have seen their books turned into movies, in which they say that everything that they saw in their mind while writing, the director captured it on film. And the writer is blown away, saying, "This is exactly how I saw it in my mind." And the writer, the director, when they read the script, they can see it playing out in their mind. They can see the close-ups, the wide angles, and the medium shots in their mind while they're reading the script. Some directors will even underline parts of the script with saying like close up, and they'll circle another part saying close up or wide angled, or they'll underline a part saying wide angled or medium. So when they go to direct a movie, they know exactly what they want. They know the medium, the wide angles, and the close ups because they circled it in their scripts exactly which part will be a wide angle and which part will be a close up. Because when they're reading it, they can see it playing out like a movie in their mind. If you ask any great director, "How did you make this movie?" The director says, "I saw it in my mind while I was reading." If you ask a writer, "How did you write such a fantastic novel?" The writer says, "I saw it in my mind while I was walking, and I simply went back to my laptop and wrote down what happened." They remembered it, and they simply write it down. Or you can have the novel go through your mind while you're writing it. Some writers will just write really quickly as the movie is playing out in their mind, like a movie, and they just capture it. There's a lot of spelling mistakes, there's a lot of grammar mistakes, but the writer doesn't stop to go back to fix those grammar mistakes, because if they did, they would lose their train of thought. And ask any writer, the worst thing that can happen is when you're in the zone, when you're having those thoughts going through your mind, when you can see your novel playing out like a movie, and all of a sudden the phone rings, or you have to stop to do something, or you get distracted, and all of a sudden you've lost the zone. You can't go back to picking up that flow again. You try to, and sometimes it comes back, but for a large part, writers get annoyed when distracted because they're lost in the world of their story. They can see it playing like a movie. And if the phone rings, now all of a sudden they've lost the flow of the story, and it's hard to get it back. One of the toughest things to do is capturing dialogue, because a lot of writers will try to write all the descriptions and the locations within the dialogue. What some writers will do is just simply write down all of the dialogue that they hear playing out in their mind. They don't bother writing down the description of the location or the people. They'll just quickly write down all the dialogue, and then they'll come back later and fill in all the information about what was happening in the background in between the dialogue. And as a writer, this is a technique that you can use because dialogue has to flow to sound natural. And if you write a line and you stop to write the details of what a character looks like or what is happening in the background, you lose the flow of that next line and the next line that happens afterwards. A lot of great writers will just write their dialogue from start to finish without anything else. And then they'll go back and add the details later. Just like how a director in a movie can picture two people talking, and they can see the mediums and the close-ups in which they know that is what they're going to be filming later. A writer can see the same thing. Another technique you can try doing when writing dialogue is to have an audio recorder with you. So that way you can actually say the dialogue out loud, and just as you're hearing the conversation going through your mind, you write it, you say it out loud. You just have that microphone with you, say it out loud, and then when you're finished, you go back and write down what you recorded yourself saying. It might sound awkward at first, but after a while you get used to it. This way, when you write down the dialogue, it sounds real, it sounds natural. And when a director reads the script, they can see that dialogue happening as though it's a real flowing dialogue that sounds natural. One of the things that a lot of great writers can do when they're writing is they can use their five senses when creating a scene. They can, when they're daydreaming their novel, they can actually feel the weather, the temperature, they can feel the wind, They can hear the birds or the cars or what's going on in the background. If someone is cooking barbecue next door, they can smell that, even in their daydreams. And a director can do the same thing. They can hear the sounds of birds in the background when they're reading the script. They can hear the traffic in the background when they're reading a script. They will incorporate that into the script. So when they're filming, they're going to know to have the cars and the birds in the background to make the scene more real. As a writer, you can do this as well. You can make sure that when you're daydreaming your novel, you want to be able to incorporate all the five senses of what's going on around you. Is it night? Is it dark? Raining? Cold? Snow? All of these senses that you can incorporate in your daydream, and when you incorporate them into your novel, people will then read it and feel as though the novel is happening to them. You've created a world in which the reader is now been pulled inside of. Great movies allow us to think and feel and see through the protagonist's eyes. We become at one with them. Great directors know to let us connect with one of the main characters, and we see and experience the novel. We experience the movie through one person's eyes. We know what their wants and their needs are. We know what they're thinking and feeling. A great example of this is Gone with the Wind. It's about a 4-hour movie in which we connect with Scarlett O'Hara. We see the movie happening through her eyes. We experience and feel and think what she is feeling. When Margaret Mitchell wrote Gone with the Wind, she did the same thing. She made us think and feel, and we connected through Scarlett's eyes. We know what her wants and needs are. As a writer, you want us to be able to connect. You want the reader to connect with one of the main characters so we can think and feel and experience the novel through their eyes, and we understand their motivations, their wants, and their needs. A great director will understand the 3-act structure. You want the beginning to have an introduction, you want the middle to be the rise and tension, and the 3rd act will be the resolution. Great writers do this as well. They understand the 3-act structure and they apply it to their novels to a point where it can easily be made into a movie afterwards. Remember the golden rule when writing. See it like a movie playing out in your mind. See the mediums, the wide angles, and the close-ups, just like a director would when directing a movie. The more you can see your novel playing out in your mind with those small little details and the 5 senses, and you can see it playing out like a movie, the easier it's going to be for you to write your novel. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to check out my website, where I have a tremendous amount of information that will help you become the greatest writer you can be. In fact, I'm going to leave a link in the description down below, where you can visit my site right now, and you can become the greatest writer you can be. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to check out my next video on why you should ignore the online literary critics. How can they hurt you? Are they beneficial? Do they have anything worthwhile to say? In fact, I'm going to leave a link to that video right here, and you can click on it right now and start watching.